All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City Commission. We'll call this meeting to order. Ms. Waters, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gandy.
Here.
Commissioner Butcher.
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez. Here. Commissioner Trujillo.
Here.
And Mayor Campos.
Here. Now, Commissioner Trujillo will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer.
Can you bow your heads, please? Lord, I want to start off with thanking you so very much for 2017, Lord. Thank you for helping us make all the adjustments for the economy downfall and so forth. Thank you for all the new housing development that took place last year, the road constructions, the county courthouse, everything that took place, Lord. It was a blessing. It don't even seem like we were in any type of downfall or downwind or anything you want to call it, Lord. It was just a blessing we had last year. I think it was a very successful year, Lord, and looking at what we're doing at Norley Hospital with the county, as well as I see a lot of housing development and so forth that happened in 2017. And like I said, if you drove through town, if anybody drove through town, it was such a sight and a blessing to see, even now with all the construction going on. I just want to thank you so very much. I want to thank you for this board and all the city employees. Thank you for this community, Lord. Thank you for all the volunteers that have helped us in 2017. Lord, I ask you in 2018 to bless us, Lord. Bless us with all the decisions we make and everything that we move forward and we move the city forward and continue to move forward. Thank you for helping us with the price of oil, Lord. We're doing it without a war, so that is a blessing as well, because we're not having to have American lives in danger, even though they are overseas protecting some of our assets as well as the ideas that we share with this world. Thank you for this nation, Lord. Thank you for our troops. Thank you for everything you've given us. And continue to bless us, Lord. Continue to make us wise that we will move this city and continue to move this city forward. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you, Commissioner. Slash preacher. All right. Do you have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion for consideration of the regular meeting minutes of December 11th, 2017, and call meeting minutes of December 18th, 2017?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, very good. Now we'll go into commissioners and staff report, starting with the one and only Mr. Wyatt Duncan.
Mayor and fellow commissioners, just to give you an update on the Polk Street project at 17th Street. Polk Street, they're actually pouring the valley gutter tomorrow morning down the center, and the main valley gutter at 8th and Polk. They will let that set until Wednesday, and then open it back up and form the last valley gutter on 6th Street. Then they'll progress with the base course and the asphalt to finish out the project. Excuse me. And 17th Street, they have a good portion of it ripped up all the way to the bus barn, the south entrance of the bus barn. They are lime treating it and bow-magging it in to get their base and subgrade correct. And then they'll proceed with curb gutter, sidewalks, and the rest.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Duncan? All right. Thank you, Wyatt. Gary.
If I may, your mayor and commission, we have our audit that has been filed with the state. I'm still waiting for them to send me the notice that they officially approved it. And as soon as we get it, I'm looking forward to giving a presentation to you. So that's hot news.
Very good. And that is an unmodified opinion. That's correct?
Yes, sir.
The highest opinion we can receive, correct?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you for that. All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Ms. Letta.
Nothing, sir.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Ms. Juarez.
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Well, I want to thank God and each one of you that we made it this year.
Yes, sir.
So, it's been a pleasure to work with of all our commission, not our city employees, our county employees, or our county managers and our district people. We thank God for each one of us, for being able to keep us safe and to keep us aware of the things that are going on. And I appreciate our city manager. He keeps us well informed. Whenever there's something going on, you can ask him, he'll tell you. So it's good to have somebody that you can rely on and just say, hey, what's going on, and he'll tell you, and that's good. That's what we need in our city. We need confidence in each other, and I believe that we got the body here to be able to do what we need to do for Lovington. As our city commissioner Trujillo was saying, there's so many things that we are thankful for, but there are a lot of things that we haven't really thought about that we need to, as we move forward with our city going on and doing what we need to do to make Lovington the best city in the state of New Mexico, barring none. It doesn't matter the size. It's the people. So if we can just acknowledge each other and acknowledge that what we are purposing to do, let's do it. As David said, we got a new year to do a lot of good things. And you know, we can't do it by ourselves, but we can do it with each one doing their part. And that's how we do it. When each one of us pulls together, I think we're going to see the greatest success from the city of Lovington this year. And I'm glad to be part of it. Amen.
Amen. All right. Commissioner Butcher.
Well, I'm going to go in a different direction. I'd like to just give a shout out to James, the city staff, and all the city employees for all their thoughts and prayers for my family during the holiday season, the loss of my daughter, Linda. Also, I'd like to shout out, you know, the city has employees and everybody has done a really great job, and like everyone has echoed, we're going to continue to work together and hope we can make 2018 an awesome year too.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just a couple of things real quickly from me. These gentlemen are right, but the bottom line is that we're a team. Life is precious. We just lost a youngster this weekend in a vehicle accident, a member of our community. So, like, you know, things happen. Life is precious. He suffered loss. We suffered loss. But just, man, enjoy the day, because tomorrow's not promised. So, even though we might have a few minor differences here and there, and we're Lovington strong. And so let's continue on. Right, okay. And then besides that, James, we get a report on the GRT. Oh, you have that handout?
I have that handout.
You're good. You're good. Huh?
Yes, sir.
And then also a report on the movie theater, and then also the disc golf. And that'll be it, Chief. Okay, don't look at me that way. If you don't mind, James, I appreciate it.
No problem. Mayor, Commissioners, to start off with our GRTs, we are pretty much on target for what we had budgeted. What we've done is, if you look at the homepage of the city's website, lovington.org, you'll see City Monthly Revenue Report. You click on that link, it'll give you this exact report that breaks it down to, as far as GRT that goes to the general fund, or economic development fund, capital improvement fund, our utilities, solid waste, streets, or special gasoline tax, as well as ambulance collections. But this is all the revenue that we receive. The only thing that's not reported on a regular basis are for like permits and business registrations that we can easily add to that. But as far as our GRT, we had budgeted roughly $6.5 million, and right now at the 6-month mark, it looks like with the averages and our estimates, we're going to be at $6.5 million. If you really want to get down to it, we may be around $21,000 short of our estimated revenues going into the general fund, but I believe that with the increase in activity that we're starting to see, I think we're actually going to exceed what our expectations were. I don't want to put a number on it, but we are staying within our budget.
Very good.
As the mayor requested, the disc golf course, I was actually going to give that report. Disc golf grand opening is going to be this weekend on the 13th, Saturday. At 8:30, from 8:30 to 9, there is a disc golf tournament. You got to register. That's registration with the tournament kicking off. At 9:30, Holly Frontier is going to host a lunch for those tournament players from 12 to 1, and at 1 o'clock, we'll have our official ribbon cutting out there at Chaparral Park. It'll be by the large shelter as well, so we invite everyone to come out. We'll be giving out the awards for the disc golf tournament as well as drawing different door prizes that were donated to us.
You said that was at 1, James, is that correct?
At 1 o'clock, yes, sir.
Very good, thank you.
Last thing is the theater. The theater's done very well. December 22nd was our opening weekend. We actually showed the movie The Star. We had over the whole weekend 124 people attend that movie. And then this weekend we showed Coco. We had over the entire weekend 206 people show up. Believe it or not, on Friday night we sold out. We actually had to turn people away and give a couple of refunds, which is a good problem to have. We are still waiting on the quote for the remaining parts to outfit the rest of the auditorium with the seats. Working out a few little service kinks and trying to streamline things, but we're actually doing well. Right now it's about a break-even operation for us because we're making small little improvements as we go. Actually, I do not know what we're going to be showing this weekend. The timing of assuming operations, everybody in Hollywood, I guess you would say, took the week of Christmas and New Year's off. So we were kind of in a little bit of a limbo period trying to get new contracts between the city and the various studios, but we are working on getting several different films in our schedule out well in advance so that way people can plan accordingly. I know that the weekend of January 19th we're planning to have more of an adult date night type atmosphere, at least on that Friday night. Something new we want to try. I don't want to give out too much right now until we finalize some things, but operations are going smooth over there.
Very good. I'd be ecstatic if we break even. Thank you, James.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Trujillo.
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Gandy.
I was excited to be part of the sold out crowd on Friday night.
Very good. Very good. All right.
Elbow to elbow. It's pretty awesome.
Chief.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Chief.
Nothing to report, sir.
Very good. James, from your end.
Yes, sir. The only thing that I have to add is on January 17th, the Chamber of Commerce is starting up their community breakfast program. Be over at the Troy Harris Center from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Come by for a cup of coffee and a breakfast sandwich. Get to meet different business members in the community. That's all I have.
Fantastic. Very good. Patrick.
Nothing to report, sir.
All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. That'll conclude our commissioner and staff report. We'll go on into public comment. Anybody that wishes to address the commission may do so at this time. If you'll just come up to the podium, identify yourself, and keep it to about 3 minutes if you would, please. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is David Munoz. I live at 806 West Jackson. I came to the meeting on December the 18th concerning the Gore addition. I was advised that they were going to vote on it tonight. He was going to bring it up to the commission. I'm just asking the commission that that I would like, you know, for whoever purchases a property behind my property to be on the same standards that they were requested of me. You know, they asked me to pit set my house so it would hold value to the property because due to the housing that was around it at the time. And Young's Mobile Home purchased the property behind me, which I think is a great thing. But according to the last discussion at the meeting, that they don't have to pit set their house. So by them not pit setting their house like mine is going to lower the value of my property because, you know, that was the sole purpose of me pit setting the house, so it would hold the residential value of housing and not mobile home. I'm not opposing the mobile homes to come in behind my house, no. I just want them to be pit setted so my house and my property doesn't lose its value. Because a mobile home set on block will lose value every year. So if you was to go in there and try to purchase it, you couldn't purchase it. How would I say? The resale value is not going to hold. To what? Opposing if you pit set the house, then the house is titled as a home and not as a mobile home. So there's a big difference there. So I'm just asking the commission to consider of my consideration of, you know, for me not to lose value of my house, because if I decide to sell my house in 3 to 5 years, well, it's going to lose a lot of value because they're going to say, well, I don't want to live at a mobile home park, because that's what they'll consider it. Because there's be nothing but mobile homes on the block. I'm not opposing the mobile homes be put behind my house. I just wanted it to be pit setted. That way, their house as a whole value and my house will not lose value. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that I would address the commission for them to consider, instead of just saying, you know, we're going to do what the law says. Well, the law's fine, you know, but the city asked me, and I done what they asked of me. So I feel that everybody should be on the same page, and not somebody else have an exclusion for any other reason. I mean, if they say, you know, it's like me right now, they're building homes around the surrounding city. They wouldn't like for me to purchase a lot there and go set a mobile home. The neighbors would definitely complain. It'd be a brand new home identical to what they're building. It's still a home, whether it be a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom. I'm just saying, let's all be on the same page, and that's all I ask of the city commission to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm Levi Whitley with Young's. I don't know if I should address you guys now and answer any questions that he's brought up, or would you like me to wait when the Gore subdivision's approached?
James, any recommendations there? Okay, you may do so now.
Okay, what he's talking about is doing a pit set, which is not required by the state of New Mexico or the city of Lovington. It's where you lower the house to the ground, which costs about an extra $10,000. I wouldn't mind doing pit sets, but I can't get an appraisal value for it. So if it costs $10,000, I get zero value. It doesn't hold any value with Kevin Negley or any other appraiser. It's the reason we don't do that. Just like you can't build a house and go put marble floors in, the appraiser doesn't give you any money for it, you lose money for the developer and for the buyer of the house. So we can't do pit sets. All of our houses will be on permanent cement foundations and hold their value from what we've seen, due to, you know, it depends what the market is. All the houses in that area will do, we feel it'll be about $100 a square foot. But everything will be put on cement, but no one is ever asked to do a pit set. City of Lovington's never asked for it, and neither has any of the state of New Mexico. It's just for aesthetics is all it is. It doesn't hold any value whatsoever. But I am going to put everything on cement foundation, not that you've asked me to. We do that for mortgages is the reason we do it. But we would like to put 4 houses there in the Gore subdivision and just increase housing here in Lovington is what we'd like to do. We're here to do affordable housing, and that's what we're in the game of. We've recently built new roads just 1 mile outside of Lovington, out off 6 Shooter. Plan to put another 22 houses over there. So we're here in this community just trying to grow with you guys. That's all I have. But I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, so y'all are on these homes, when you talk about the pit setting and all this, you are gonna come in and the structures around them, they're gonna be sitting on cinder block, or are they gonna be sitting flat? Because you just said it's gonna be on concrete.
What it is the city of Lovington, you're one of the only ones that do require a foundation. The state of New Mexico says a foundation is a metal type of foundation or a cement foundation. We are choosing to do a cement foundation which sits on the ground, and then from the cement foundation to the frame, you have to have cinder block by code. His house has cinder block also. He just dug it down and had the cement lower, but his is on cinder block also. You have to have a crawl space underneath the house to meet code, just like a pier and beam home. So any manufactured home, no matter how low you see it, there is cinder block underneath there.
Okay.
And that's required by code.
And you're proposing, when you're bringing them in here, those are gonna be single wides, doubles, or what?
I'm doing manufactured homes that are double wides on cement foundations that will be anchored to the cement foundation also. That meets all FHA, VA, and USDA codes. So you can get a conventional USDA or an FHA loan on it.
Because I could see the problem of Mr. Vigneault's saying where, you know, it's gonna bring, you know, hopefully it won't bring the property value down. You know, I just don't know, you know, depending on how it's done, if it's done properly. And I know you guys are professionals, but at the same time, the gentleman does have a good point. So.
Right, and you know, and another thing is, you know, the foreclosures we've seen in the paper also. All the foreclosures in the paper have not been manufactured homes. They've been conventional site-built houses right here in town. You know, I'm looking at all of them, trying to buy them and refurb them also. You know, that has a lot to do with value. We're not seeing a lot of manufactured home as foreclosures. We're seeing conventional houses. And, you know, it's everything we've seen that we've done has raised values in that area. I'm not saying this will, but that's what we've seen. And that's just using a professional appraiser to do this. And we do have a professional appraiser come in and appraise the property after we're done to protect the bank and the home buyer also. And he's doing comparable sales in that area. But I don't know if it will bring it up or bring it down. I can't answer that correctly.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
How much cement do you put on your foundation?
I'm doing a house that is a 28 by 52, and that would be about 18 yards of cement is what it would take.
So you're making it at least 4 inch?
6 inches with a 12-inch footer all the way around to meet frost code in the state of New Mexico. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's probably the main thing they have. So then, do you pour cement on the whole thing, or do you just do it for the blocks?
I do it. There is some dirt underneath the house for ventilation purposes, but like I said, it's about 18 to 19 yards of cement, so it's just about the whole thing is cement. Everything that touches the ground is set on cement. It's the right way to do it.
So even you have blocks on there in the middle?
Yes, sir.
So they're all sitting on that footing,
That
cement?
That's correct also. We have an engineer out of Albuquerque that draws plans for each individual site, which is required by the bank for lending purposes, just like with the home foundation.
If you tie it, you have to tie it, secure it with straps or something?
Yes, sir. We put anchors into the cement, then we have 1 1/4 inch straps that wrap all the way around the frame and anchor it down. On a house that size, you'd have about 18 anchors anchoring the house to the foundation.
Is your strap, Mr. Vigneault?
Yes, sir.
It is.
Okay, good. Y'all secured it.
And proposed fencing are for those homes y'all are bringing in, or is it gonna be unfenced?
Unfenced. No, we're allowing the homeowner to do that. We're trying to keep the cost to a minimum. I have agreed with the zoning to put in sidewalks is what I've agreed to do. And I talked to the zoning about that. They requested that.
Is there any covenants that say that they have to be fenced in?
No, sir.
So let me ask you this. You say that somebody like an appraiser like Kevin Nagley will not assess the property any higher if it's a pit setting that's underneath the structure. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we did a lot of pit sits back 10 years ago, and then the resale value of a pit sit compared to non-pit sit, when it's sold on the open market, sold for the same value. So he no longer would give any value to a pit sit. Just like you really don't get any value to landscaping in this area because the house foreclosed, everything would die. So it's the same thing. When he saw the resale value of it, he didn't see that people were paying more for pit sits, so I wasn't able to do it anymore.
Could you just educate me, and my cohort probably know, but what's the difference between a pit setting and what you're proposing?
A pit set, what they do is they dig it down about 20 inches, pour the foundation, sit the house, and then they put a block wall around the house. Then they just backfill up against that block wall, so it gives the appearance of it sitting lower compared to a manufactured home sitting at a normal height with wood skirting. It's just it's just as strong, just as safe. There's just more costs involved for aesthetic value reasons.
All right. Now, James, maybe you can kind of shed a little light on this.
Sure.
Mr. Munoz is telling us that it was required on his property, and the gentleman's telling us that it's not required on the property that they're proposing. Can you shed some light on that?
Mayor, Commissioners, I know that how long ago was that, Mr. Munoz? It was 5-6 years ago when you set your house up.
Yes, sir.
Previous city manager, I know when it came up during our planning and zoning meeting, we looked through minutes and couldn't find anything where the commission or planning and zoning had put that requirement on Mr. Munoz. So I know our code doesn't require it. It does as the foundation, the cement foundation that we do require. But as far as pit setting, I don't know if that came directly from the city manager. The current staff here don't have any recollection of enforcing that particular requirement.
Okay. Mr. Munoz, do you have anything in writing, any documentation that this was required of you when you
No,
built
sir,
your
I was
project?
just verbally told that he expected me, if I was gonna bring in a mobile home to the city, that he expected that of me for the simple reason was that it was gonna be designed for homes, and my house had to look like a house. And I said, well, let's go ahead and spend the extra money to do that, and I did. So I was under the impression that, you know, it didn't matter, you know, that they were gonna build new homes or, you know, it's gonna be a new addition, that I expected everybody else to do the same, because now, you know, I spent all this money to pit set it. I think they charged me like $15,000 or $18,000. They remembered the cost. But I know for a fact that increased my payment on my home by $200.
When you say he told me, who are you talking
The
about?
city manager and the code enforcer at the time told me that that's what we were going to be required at that particular time because of the additions and stuff that they wanted to do. You know, whenever they decided, you know, decided to put homes there, that's why I purchased the whole acre in the front because of what was going to take place there.
You're referring to the previous city manager, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any questions from the board?
Yes, James, on the houses to the west of Mr. Mendoza's house, are they pit, or are they just like Young Mole's going to do the east? Yeah, east. Did I say, what did I say, west? Yeah, east.
They are not pit set.
They're not pit set. They're adjacent to his house and they're pit set.
Any other questions about the commission? Yes, sir.
Are you skirting all these homes?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I do. Wood skirting that's the same material as the house, and I paint everything to match. Yeah, this won't be a mobile home park. These will be sold to individuals just on regular mortgages.
And these are gonna be on city water and sewer. You're not gonna have wells drilled, right?
No, sir. We've already brought in city water and sewer to these properties when I purchased them.
All right, very good. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anybody else up for public comment at this time? Okay, seeing as there are none, we'll move on into non-action items. Discussion of recommendation for an ordinance of the City of Lovington amending Title II, Administration and Personnel, Division 5, Boards and Commissions, Chapter 2.72, Planning and Zoning Commission, amending Title 17, Zoning, Chapter 17.20, A, Single Family Dwelling District, amending Title 17, Zoning, Chapter 17.40, Non-Conforming Uses. James.
I think you said it all, Mayor. No. Mayor, Commissioners, this is more of a formal discussion. We did cover this prior to our December 12th Planning and Zoning meeting, just to provide everybody an update and as far as any commission input. However, we just want to have a more formal discussion. If there's any questions that the City Commission would like to have, and this does address the land use, non-conforming structures, and amendments to Planning and Zoning Commission. So what this draft ordinance in section 2.72 is the duties of the Planning and Zoning Commission. This clarifies the roles and responsibilities of that, but the most important aspect of this is that for the non-conforming structures, permitting a non-conforming structure or allowing them through a special use document, the City Commission would be used as a means of appeal. The Planning and Zoning Commission can grant these. Now, should the owner of the property be denied their request, they would have the right to appeal to the City Commission, or if neighbors are not in favor, they would have the ability to appeal the decision to the City Commission. The second component to this ordinance is in section 2.20. This deals with the construction and type of materials used for carports. The majority of the issues with non-conforming carports are that they don't attach permanently to the home. In this particular section of the draft ordinance, it's removing the requirement that they have to be attached to the home and match the characteristic of the construction. So this, in order to address that, if individuals don't like a particular style of carport in their neighborhood, that's where they can create their homeowners associations and go about it civilly. But we wouldn't require permanent attachment in Zone A or that it matches the construction style. So section 17.40, it addresses nonconformance. We updated the language in this draft of the ordinance. Essentially, it says that if a structure is damaged beyond 50% of its replacement cost at the time of damage, basically the structure has to be rebuilt and conform to the most current regulations of our zoning code. Non-conforming structures also, if they are granted and allowed to be continued to be used, they cannot be enlarged, altered, extended, any alterations. They have to remain as is. And if you choose to add on to it, it has to be brought up to the most current version of the code. Special use permits, this already exists. This is for wanting to use a particular plot of land for a use that's not allowable due to its zoning. These are, as long as it's not detrimental to the public health, welfare, safety, it is allowable. This is a process that goes through the city commission. There's different criteria that must be met. Those are found within there. So one is looking at the comprehensive plan. Some other ones is it's not going to create a hazard or nuisance. You wouldn't want a full-blown auto body shop in a single-family dwelling district or Zone A. It won't have any effects on the environment or the attractiveness of the area. Also, if the commission has any special restrictions or requirements, they do have to follow that. Also, it is non-transferable. What that means is that, say for instance, Chief Lizardo here wanted to open up a barber shop in his garage. Now notice he would be cutting the hair. He saves a lot of money. But if he were to sell his house, the ability for that individual to have that barber shop in that garage in the same single family dwelling would not transfer. They would have to go back, if they wanted to continue that operation, and ask for that special use permit. To deal with non-conforming structures, we have new content in there, and essentially this is to deal with predominantly those structures that, one, they can't constitute a threat to health or safety. There's not an impact on negative impact on economic conditions or quality of life, and if it falls within the setback requirements of the zone. A lot of our non-conforming structures, whether it's an accessory building or if it's even a carport, once you remove the construction style and permanent attachment, it's a setback issue. If they do have a setback issue, they can apply for conditional approval. So what would happen would, the conditional approval would only apply to structures built prior to February 13th of 2014. But that's because we can back it up with satellite imagery, and also in 2014 is when we really had a more formal permitting process for structures, and we were catching a lot of these that were before they were completely built, to eliminate that setback issue. So the process is they would complete the application. They would have a one-time $150 filing fee. And the way that's broken down is that this document, if approved, it would have to be filed at the courthouse. We would send certified letters to each owner of property that's within 100 feet of the change. We have printing, publishing, to advertisement, and so it's roughly about $150 to recoup our costs. So the request for the conditional approval will be posted on the property. Notification would be published within 15 days of the public hearing, which the public hearing would occur during our regular monthly Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. If it is granted, the document would be prepared. It would contain language that specifies that the structure can remain in place and the reason why it doesn't conform. If it is addressing a particular setback issue, it will grant that. However, language will be incorporated into the document that at any time, any municipal infrastructure improvement, replacement, or even franchise agreement replacement of utilities, that structure will either have to be brought into conformance or it will have to be completely removed. So it's basically saying that if we have a, let's just say for instance, a carport that's built right up to the property line, which that's not allowable. They're supposed to be built 5 foot back from the property line, and we have to come in and we're building a road, we have to install our sidewalks. That structure either has to be brought into conformance or it will be torn down. The ordinance, if they fail to comply with the requirements, the application will be revoked, the structure will be removed and billed. The expenses will be billed to the owner. If they don't pay that, then a lien's placed on that property. If it's not granted, if the conditional approval is not granted, then they have the ability to appeal to the city commission. And of course there is a violation clause. But it's a monetary fine. It's not jail time. It's one of the changes that they made. So, but this is the plan from here is unless there is any major changes that the commission would like to make, we will bring this back to the city commission at our next meeting, which I believe is January 22nd, for approval of a resolution to begin the advertisement and publication and notification of the mail outs to everybody in the affected zones.
Thank you, James.
James, in notifying the on this, is there some
copy of the proposed ordinance, and then when it's done, we can send that to our realtors here in town. But the information is available, and I think that the majority of our realtors, they have access to at least one of those options, so they should be aware of it as well.
And then going back to the ultimate authority, so that the board would have the authority to make the yay or nay it, but we'd have the ultimate authority. They want anybody to choose to appeal it.
Yes, sir.
And how would that individual know that? Do we hand that clause to them when they're in front of the board, or when just so they would be educated is what I'm saying. I don't want them to say, well, I didn't know that we could appeal it. I thought this was where it ended.
Correct.
And something like David, for instance, probably didn't know, could have pursued different avenues to get it instead of a verbal agreement, more or less, more document, because anybody that approaches, I don't want to say that if we make this change, they say, well, the board has the ultimate. Yes, they do, but the commission can appeal it, so they still have one more chance if they're not satisfied with the answer they got.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Commissioner Trio, one, the individuals will be receiving that summary and have the option to view the ordinance, but also on the application, it will have the steps for any type of an appeal process listed on there.
And this should be advised by the board itself of
Yes,
the
sir.
availability of the appeal, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, any other comments or questions for James? All right. We'll go on into action items. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion we consider resolution 2018-01, consider approval for a variance for mobile home lot dimensions for lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, block 10, 4 additions to the city of Lovington, 8th Street in Van Buren.
I'll second that.
We have a second. James?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, I do have Crystal here in case I need to punt. However, Mr. Munoz, the Young's Mobile Homes, the owners of lots 1 through 4. This is actually Mr. Munoz's house down here. Here are the lots. They are actually, they meet the 7,000 square foot lot requirement. However, our code in this particular zone, whenever you place a mobile home, it requires a lot width of 50 feet, a lot depth of 100 feet. And you can see that each one of these lots meets the width with 75 to 84 feet. However, we're looking at 86 feet in lot depth. They meet or exceed all of the lot setback requirements, such as on a corner lot, you have to have, if on this corner lot, you have to have a 25-foot front yard setback, a 25-foot side yard setback. These adjacent ones, they only require 5 foot from the property line, and you can see that it's actually 11.5 feet with the size mobile homes that are proposed. The minimum backyard requirement is met, it's just that lot depth. So this was actually heard by the Lovington Planning and Zoning Commission on the 12th of December, and they are recommending approval of the request to allow that variance. However, they did request that the variance be approved on the condition that ADA sidewalks and curb cuts with concrete approach and one parking space on each lot be installed by the owner of the lots at the time of construction.
And the utilities, James?
As far as the utility layout,
I can address it. Young's Mobile Home came in, I believe it was about 5, 6 years ago, and they extended all utilities that are on the front side of Van Buren, so they're going to be in the front of the mobile homes.
Is there any buffer zone between the property of Mr. Munoz and mobile homes? Is there?
No, not that I know, sir.
It's the fence.
All right. Any other discussion, questions, comments? Commissioner Sanchez, you look like you have a question.
Is the gas in the front also with the other utilities or not?
They are. Okay.
Do you want to say anything else, Mr. Munoz or Youngs? Yes.
I'll answer any questions that you might have, but I'm good if you are. Thank you.
I mean, I'm just saying, you know, like came to the variance, you know, they was approved, and I think it's a great idea that they're gonna do something back there, but I just wish that they would just, it said it like mine, so the whole block would look the same. You know, that's the only thing that I'm asking the commission, you know, is to ask them to pit set it, like he says, Mr. Negley says, you know, that it wouldn't matter on the value of the house, but I can tell you this for a fact, that if you don't pit set it, it's gonna be titled as a mobile home and not as a home. That's the purpose of the pit set, is to be titled as a home. And if you don't pit set it, it'll be entitled to the mobile home. It'll be titled as a mobile home and not as a home. So I feel that there's a big difference there.
To talk to his, we don't have to pit set it to get it titled as a manufactured home. When we put it on cement foundations, it is titled as a deeded piece of property. We deactivate the title, and that's required by all banks for lending purposes. So even though we are not pit sitting, everything will be deactivated titles and will be considered just a deed. There's no longer a title to it. That's not required a pit sit to do that. The pit sit's just for aesthetic purposes only, not for any titling. So everything will be deactivated titles. Then that's not required by the city of Lovington or the state of New Mexico also. We choose that to do for lending purposes also, again. That's not required by any of your rules or regulations. I meet or exceed all the setbacks that are required of me, and then some. And I am willing to, like I said, to put in sidewalks to improve the community. And that's not requested by the city of Lovington also. I did volunteer to do that. So we're just here to try to do some affordable housing is what we're here to try to do.
Was that requested of you by planning and zoning?
Yes, they did ask we do that, and we do that on all of our city properties. We don't do that out in the county.
Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal, anything you wish to add to this? Everything's covered as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, there's, like we said, there was no record of the pit set. Laura said she did not remember that requirement being put on him. And he has more than enough space to place those mobile homes. Those mobile homes would have plenty of space in between each home to look. In fact, the homes across the street are closer to each other than those mobile homes would be because they're smaller lots across the street. So,
Okay.
no issues with it.
Any other questions, comments about this work? Commissioner Gann?
Oh, no. I'm just trying to remember all the meetings we went to and that property was installed.
There was a lot of discussion at that time. That's what I was trying to think. There was a lot of discussion. Oh, Dave was, he had a well going on. He had a lot going on out there. So there was a lot of discussion.
I don't remember the pit set. I apologize.
All right. If there's no further discussion, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Do we have another motion?
Make a motion to consider resolution 2018-2, consideration amendment to the City of Lovington, Lee County Memorandum Agreement for the improvement and reconstruction for portions of Love Street and Washington Avenue.
We have a second by Commissioner Sanchez. James?
Mayor and Commissioners, if you recall, of course, with the judicial complex, new judicial complex construction being conducted by the county, it did require relocation of various utilities along Washington Avenue and Love Street with the intention that once the utilities were replaced, we were going to restore the asphalt and make any other improvements. Of course, both of those roads did need reconstruction prior to the utility replacement. We entered into a memorandum of agreement with Lee County to help split the costs on this project and also allow them to do some additional aesthetic improvements in the area at their expense. Basically, this is Love Street in this area here. This is Central Avenue, this is Washington. We'll have ADA accessible ramps, sidewalk. In this particular area, the parking on the east side of the courthouse, the sidewalk will actually be extended and remove that parking area. There will also be a raised speed table, I guess you would say, or a raised brick platform that will cross Love Street. That is one of the county's projects, as well as additional bollards in this area and lighting upgrades. Along Washington Avenue, you can see we also have some ADA upgrades, sidewalk, curb, gutter, and replacing all of this asphalt, as well as the asphalt on Love Street from Washington all the way down here to Central. So in our MOA, we did specify the responsibility or cost splitting, if you want to say, between each entity. The problem we have run into is we did accept bids. We opened those bids last week. That's actually our next action item. However, even the low bid that we received for this exceeds what our maximum allowable per our memorandum of agreement was. We put a maximum price tag on this at $300,000 to incorporate all of that. Our low bid was actually $387,000, I believe, which you can see breaking down the city's share. It was $133,900, and then of course the county share $254,000, plus New Mexico gross receipts tax. So I know myself and Mike Gallagher and our staff, we all met to last week to discuss this, to address the MOA, but also look at the project plans and the requirements. And we're recommending that we amend the agreement to incorporate basically an increase of $446,918. This will cover the $133,000 or almost $134,000 plus gross receipts tax plus the county share, and then also we would have a $30,000 reserve each in the event that once we remove the asphalt, if we run into any additional problems with needing to lime stabilize the base course because of moisture content and clay, we have that already built in there. The utilities, I would like to say, they are replaced. We have brand new water line down there. We have the electrical upgrades that are required as well. Should the commission approve this tonight, the county commission will also consider the same amendment to our agreement this Thursday as well. We are right now, as far as like the city share, I believe we budgeted right at $110,000 for this particular project. Just with asphalt prices and some required ADA upgrades, we were a little bit over on what our budget was as far as our estimates were. But these are concrete numbers that were provided to us by the contractors.
Mr. Gallagher, I know you're present. Would you care to address the board regarding
Lovington Avenue improvements?
Second.
We have a second. James.
Mayor Commissioners, we did receive 3 bids. We received one from Constructors Inc., one from J&H Services, and one from Ramirez & Sons. As you can see in the accompanying documentation, the results were tabulated by our project engineer, and we do have the engineer's recommendation that the project be awarded to Ramirez & Sons. If you are interested as far as the cost breakdown, Per unit, we actually have a side-by-side comparison that the engineer's bid tabulation, but then we also have the breakdown of what entity is responsible as far as percentage-wise and dollar amount.
James, on this road construction, so the new bathrooms are we got access to sewer and water without tearing up the new streets prior to building that, or
Mayor, Commissioner
or is that
Trujillo,
that
this
area
project does not have
include that?
anything
I'm
to
just
do
saying
with
just
restrooms.
after we complete the project, we're not going to be tearing up the streets too.
There should not be a need, sir, to tear up the streets.
Okay.
Part of this project was to incorporate irrigation improvements and also in anticipation of the upgrades to the existing courthouse. They've already made those accommodations.
Okay. Just checking on that. Let's make sure why it's solid.
There's a pretty big difference between constructors and Ramirez and Sons, I see there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments about the board?
That'll save us a lot of money.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have another motion.
Consideration resolution 2018-04. Consider approval of third quarter lodgers tax funding.
Second.
We have a second. James or Gary?
I've got this one. Mayor and Commissioners, our Lodgers Tax Board did meet at the end of the month, previous month, and we have several events that they are recommending to fund for a total amount of $16,598. One of the items that we had for discussion was the fact that our signs on our entryways, the Welcome to Lovington signs, they're in need of replacement. There's various different means. We actually were approached by a third party about that, and they drew up some renderings. But how do we pay for it? I mean, we can spend anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 per sign on this project. Instead of just putting a sign up, we need to look at all of our options, and this would be something that I think that not doing this immediately, but budgeting in anticipation for next year, this is something I would want to definitely have some public input on, as well as do a formal quote and bid process. But some of the, an upgrade to the signs, these were what basically the vendor had submitted to us, whereas using the existing base and the framework, of course the electrical components on the interior of the sign would require a substantial upgrade, but doing perhaps a brick facade, the letters as far as Lovington, they would actually be flat cut and they would be backlit with LEDs. A more modern looking sign. Another option, these are in your packets as well, a total brick facade, just different options that we could potentially look at. The reason why I bring this up is that the Lodgers Tax Board, when we were discussing the need for additional signage, one of the on Highway 18, I believe near Kansas, and this is one of those things that helps welcome tourism or visitors to the city. So Lodgers tax funding would be appropriate for this, and what they recommended that in addition to our regular municipal funding that we budgeted this year, that we increase this each quarter by basically establishing savings of about $6,400 per quarter, to where this will help offset any costs that we may have if we don't obtain any potential donations or grant funding. So we're not using general fund to approach this project. But as you can see, the total Lodgers tax request would include our regular dedicated municipal funding, in addition to our chamber funding and Main Street funding that's already been budgeted for these third quarter events for a total of $16,598, and then an additional increase of $6,400 to remain in the Lodgers tax fund.
All right, very good.
And James, one recommendation I'd like to make in case I'm not present during the public is if that sign is going to be placed over there at our new city limits, I'd like it to be pretty big. I mean, if you make something small, you go and set it. I know everybody, like Mr. Getty, travels about 70 miles an hour, so You probably won't see a little bitty sign, 5x5 sign. I think we need something big like either match Hobbs or match somebody, but I'd like to see something big. We're gonna have something out there.
Mayor, Commissioner Trio, to be honest, this plan right now is to update the existing signs that we have because we already have electricity running to the sites.
Okay.
We have a good concrete foundation to build the signs on, and the one vendor actually said that we can incorporate a lot of the framework we have, but it is replacing the interior of the sign and also the sign material.
Yeah, I think that's nice for the existing ones, but you know, I'm just saying if we end up putting something out right there, out at our new boundaries, I'd like to keep it.
Yeah, we're getting closer.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We have another motion.
I'll make a motion we consider accounts payable.
Second it.
We have a second. Gary or James?
If I may, your mayor and commission,
Yes, sir, you may.
our single largest payment was made to Waste Management Authority for $128,000. It's on page 17. And then the second largest payment was for $87,358 to Lee County Electric, which is on page 7. Those are obviously standard payments. If you have any questions, we're available for answers.
I got one. There at the beginning, there's a name, Alfredo Gomez.
Yes,
$1,171.27. Who is Alfredo Gomez?
that would be for, I forgot what you called it.
Softball.
Softball.
Rogers tax reimbursement.
Wild Bunch.
I'm sorry, what?
Wild Bunch. Softball, yeah.
Oh, that's the name I was looking for, yes.
I was looking at this one, it's not very big, but it's the very first item, 6,000 pole from Lee County Electric. What, we had someone hit a pole and it was charged to the city, or?
That one I don't know.
Where'd that come from? I mean, I know those poles are expensive, but,
Yeah, they are.
$6,000, I mean, really? I was just kinda curious, you know, did we purchase a pole from them, or where'd that come from? The very first page. What's this?
Which one?
Top item, number 1.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't see the,
I think I'm in the wrong.
Sorry. Say,
I know I screwed
sure
it
not
up.
Alleviator or Rico?
Entry responsibility.
You said page 1?
I'm just scrap that. I flipped over to the wrong page. My apology on that. But I still like to know if we purchased the pole and what it was for. I mean, it was bid on, so I was in the wrong page. Never mind.
That first page is one for $10,000 to Capers.
Fire department.
okay.
It's actually the police department records management system.
Gary, what is BICI LLC? It's one of our vendors.
I would have to look at the details on that.
Okay. We pay about
Wastewater
40
supplies,
I'm sorry?
wastewater.
All right, very good, thank you. Anything else, gentlemen?
Good.
You good to go? All right. Commissioners?
Good.
Good to go?
Aye.
All right.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have another motion?
I'll make a motion we adjourn this meeting.
Do we have a second? Second. All right, meeting adjourned.